on how to help future generations, which is my main motivation of pursuing these types of projects. I'm a climate professional and I've been working in these types of projects for more than 2 decades. So it is a joy to see people here wanting to learn and wanting to move forward and learn basically how do we make it happen and how do we support our planet Earth in fighting this climate change battle. So thank you. I would also like to thank our partners here who put this together from Catholic Climate Covenant, Interfaith Paralight, Solar United Neighbors, Civic Works, and Catholic Parish Green Leaders, including those whose homes are already powered by the sun. I also like to thank 8 co-sponsoring parishes, green teams. That's amazing. It's 8. Nativity Catholic Church Care for Creation Ministry in Burke, the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle Care for Creation Green Team, St. John the Evangelist Green Team in Columbia, Holy Trinity Green Team and Social Justice Ministry in DC, St. John Newman Care for Our Common Home Ministry in Reston, Our Lady of Good Counsel in Vienna, St. Camilla's Care for Creation Team in Silver Spring, and last but not least, St. Catherine Drexel Parish Environmental Stewardship Team in Frederick. So most of our time tonight, we will be spending in learning how to actually go solar. What steps do you need to pursue to actually be able to take advantage of this beautiful sun and create electricity for your house and don't be dependent on utility rates, etc., etc. So I am very excited again for this event and having so much people. I cannot see how many of you are here, but I can see there is a lot of people, so it's amazing. We'll conclude the night by taking a few moments to actually start the process of going solar by signing up for these purchasing groups and seeing if our homes are a good fit for solar panels. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Paz Artaza Regan from Catholic Climate Covenant, who will help us to mind why we as Catholics are called to go solar. Paz?
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to go ahead and share screen here and do a slide. There we go. So thank you very much and good evening, everybody. Catholic Climate Covenant is honored to be co-sponsor of this important workshop tonight and to help Catholic homeowners in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area explore the possibilities of going solar to power their homes. I'm going to start off by saying that the science is irrefutable. Human activity, generating electricity and heating by burning fuels such as coal, gas, oil, natural gas are the major causes of climate change. And human inaction in the face of rapid climate change is immoral. The majority of scientists agree that we are headed to exceed the global threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030 to 2035. We in the global north, and particularly in the United States, who have contributed to about 90% of greenhouse emissions historically, have the moral responsibility to respond to the crisis so that our most vulnerable brothers and sisters, the poorest 3 billion who have contributed less than 10% of the global greenhouse emissions and who have already suffered 75% of the losses, do not continue to bear a disproportionate impact. Pope Francis's attention to creation is not new. It is not a new focus for the papacy. Since 1891, when Pope Leo XIII began the modern Catholic tradition of Catholic social teaching. Many popes, including Popes John the 23rd, Paul VI, and St. John Paul II, in Benedict the 16th, and now Francis I, have reiterated that teaching the care for creation is a moral responsibility and a core commitment of the Catholic faith. Pope Benedict, in fact, is what is called the Green Pope. In 2010, he stated, "Can we remain indifferent before the problems associated with such realities as climate change? Our present crisis, be they economic, food-related, environmental, or social, are ultimately also moral crises, and all of them are interrelated. They require us to rethink the path with which we are traveling together." In this photo, you see the Vatican's solar array that was installed by Pope Benedict in 2008. It is right now providing about 40% of the heating and cooling at the Vatican. In 2015, Pope Francis built on his predecessors and urged us to transition to renewable energy in Laudato Si. There he says that there's an urgent need to develop policies so that in the next few years, the emission of carbon dioxide and other highly polluting gases can be drastically reduced. 10 years later, in October 23, after the release of Laudato Si, Pope Francis released Laudate Deum, an exhortation where he emphasizes the severity and depth of our climate crisis. He says that the necessary clean energy transitions towards and the abandonment of fossil fuels is not progressing at the necessary speed needed. He especially calls on the global north to step up and move quickly to transition to renewable sources. In response to Laudate Deum, the covenant provides the U.S. Catholic community with a Laudate Deum pledge. We are invited in it to consider taking concrete actions, and among those actions is to focus on our homes because they account for about 13% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. We tell folks to check to see if clean energy is available from their utility, and if possible, install solar panels on our homes or buy into a community solar program if that is not possible. Just this last May, about the 3rd, an international group of researchers, faith leaders, policymakers, and mayors, governors went to the Vatican, hosted by the Vatican's Pontifical Academies of Sciences and Social Sciences, and presided by Pope Francis. The outcome of the meeting was a planetary protocol for climate resilience that calls for a rapid acceleration to bend the warming curve by phasing out fossil fuels and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and to enable sustainable living. In short, it is what Pope Francis and St. John Paul II have termed an ecological conversion, which means a transformation of hearts and minds towards the greater love of God, each other, and creation. It is a process of acknowledging our contribution to the social and ecological crisis and acting in ways that nurture communion, healing, and renewing of our common home. We are heartened by that so many in the U.S. Catholic community have already responded to this call for ecological conversion. U.S. Catholic solar efforts are truly a visible way for our faith and values to be lived out. Thank you for being here tonight and being interested in greener and renewable energy's future. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bas. That was a great presentation. For sure, we feel encouraged knowing that our Pope really supports what we're doing. So thank you so much for that presentation. And now, before we get into the details on going solar through their purchasing groups, I think it will help us all to bring some like real life examples, real people, Catholics that already moved forward, and let them with their words tell us their experience, the barriers they encounter through the process, because sometimes, and we understand there's a lot of information. So I do think it's very important to hear the process from normal Catholic people that went through the process and hear it from them. So with that, I'm gonna welcome Tom, Stell, and Joe Gilmer. Uh, so we're gonna do this with a couple questions. So we can start with Tom, if okay. So Tom, tell us what inspired you to go solar.
Well, I can remember the very first Earth Day I kind of celebrated, remembered in high school. So that's almost 50 years ago. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. But I'm a homeowner, and I look for ways of trying to reduce my carbon footprint by, insulating and cutting back on electricity. But it wasn't until I was in my dentist chair and my hygienist told me that she was going solar that I said, well, could I do that? And she said, yeah, you could do that. And then I started investigating it and found out I had a good roof for it with a lot of exposure. And then I talked to my neighbors, and I found 4 other people who were interested in doing it. So we kind of got together and talked among ourselves, and were able to actually negotiate a good price from a installer. And we kind of were helping each other answer the questions we had. We weren't just doing it on our own. And so that was 12 years ago. And so that the inspiration was, wow, I actually can do something. I've got a view of the sky. Why don't I take advantage of it? Because God is sending the sun to me. Why am I not taking advantage of it? And that way, I'm not burning wood or burning gas or burning coal. And yet it's covering 95% of my electrical needs in a year, which is kind of amazing that it was up there all the time and I wasn't using it. And it was free to use once I put the system up. And it's been great.
That's great. That's such a great story. Things happen for a reason. You were in that day in the dentist because you needed to know that you needed to go solar. So that's great. Joe, do you want to tell us your inspiration, what inspired you to go solar?
Sure. Yeah. So my wife and I, Leah, we moved to Franconia, in between Springfield and Alexandria in Virginia, in May of 15. And it's a 3-bedroom split level house that's 100% electric. And so we noticed just how expensive all electric can be in the wintertime. And so when we had our first full year really looking at our electric, it was 16,835 kilowatts used in a year. And that's just 2 of us with 2 dogs for it. And we had heard about a solar via Solarize Fairfax, and it was a workshops very similar to what we're going through here this evening in terms of talking about, the ins and outs of it. And we were really interested. I also really like, not only I'm an environmental guy, but I also love just really cool tech. And so we had an energy audit done. That was one of our first steps after coming off of the meeting. And then there was a special offering that if so many people were to do it by the end of the year, there was like a group discount kind of item. So there was a little extra bonus to kind of push that a little bit. And so we did this energy audit. We did some low-hanging fruit improvements on our energy, cutting some stuff back. We put panels up and turned it on in November of 17. And we've done some other improvements since then, but the panels are by far the biggest driver of this. But our 6th anniversary since those panels got put up and turned on in November of 17. So if you compare October 16, October 17 to October 22nd, 2022 to 2023, we've dropped down to 902 kilowatts. That's a 94.7% offset. And I got to tell you guys, when you see your electric bill and the kilowatt usage is 0.000000000, and then like 2 months, it's like, boop, boop, and you're back to zeros. It's awesome.
I bet. I'm jealous. It's amazing. It sounds great. So tell me, what is your Joe? Tell me, what's your favorite memory of going solar?
Yeah, there are a couple of those. After it was installed, of course, it was one of these things where we had neighbors coming through and saying, what's this? And it happens to play very well into my style for getting the word out about environmental issues is more about show, don't, show it, don't just talk about it or thunder away. Because I find many of my neighbors will come around. Most of my neighborhood now, they actually have electric lawnmowers because I have an electric lawnmower and they watch me mowing. They're like, does that work? And I'm like, of course it does. And then so that's really neat. Having folks coming and genuinely wanting to know more about it, because it's kind of one of the things where like I've heard about this, and then they'll often ask like I heard blank, and it would be some talking point that's not accurate, and it gives a chance to be able to answer it without there being a argumentative defensiveness. And then the other thing that I just love, Dominion didn't change our meter right away, so it was still a single meter. So the first several months, I just watched the meter go backwards. I can't tell you how cool that is to see the meter go in reverse. And so those were the really neat memories of it. And then since then we've gotten so used to it that I don't even think about the panels when I drive in anymore. And someone says, wow, that house has got all these panels on it. And just to let you know one other thing too, it's not like we have some big house here with a huge roof space. We're split level 3-bedroom on a 1/4 acre property with trees all around us. And we're still getting that kind of performance. So it's not, you don't have to have a house that's top of the hill and there's no obstructions whatsoever to really see some benefit of this.
That's great. Tom, do you want to jump on that question? What's your favorite
Yeah,
memory?
well, just to mention that about the size of the house, I live in a row house in the District of Columbia in Columbia Heights. It's only 16 feet wide. Now it's kind of long, but it's not a huge place. And I have 22 panels up on 2 roofs. And so I installed also in the wintertime. Actually, it was probably the darkest week of the year. It was like the second or third week of December. And so it was dark. And so watching that first spring and looking at generating more and more, because I didn't know how that first year would go. And it was really clear that every day the sun got brighter in the sky, my electricity would build and build, and I could watch it every day. And it was kind of fun. You almost obsessed about it because it was so cool to think that you were generating the electricity you needed right on your roof. So I've got a lot of memories and, talking about with other people and kind of letting them know, hey, if you're thinking about it, you actually can do this. It's not that complicated. You don't have to be a big tech person. Although, like Joe, I kind of like the technical aspect of it, and I kind of pay attention to it. But you don't really need to pay a lot of attention to it once it's up there. It's just fun for those of you who are interested in that kind of technical stuff. It's fun. It gives you a lot of things to pay attention to. So I'm just glad that I can make a difference and that I can somehow do what the Pope wants, which is, move away from fossil fuels. I still heat the house with gas, and eventually that'll change, but I'm doing what I can at the moment.
That's so great. I heard you both saying you don't have to be, I think you don't have to be an environmentalist to care about the planet and really take action. And you don't have to be a mathematician to be like, or a technician to be able to really implement this type of measures in your house. I'm gonna add one thing. So one of my favorite memories. I have not gone solar, but through the entire the history of the technology is when the numbers and the economics behind the technology started making sense to people to just move forward. And that is, it's great because it wasn't like that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We were trying to make the case and it was really expensive, but now it's really something that many people can pursue because that technology, the incentives, and the technology right now, it's really affordable for many of us. So that's great. Well, last question. So why do you think it's important for us as Catholics in particular to shift to solar panels? I'll give the word to Tom.
Well, it's, there are not a lot of things we can do when we talk about industries and things like that. Like, the cement industry creates a lot of problems and pollution, and someday we'll have to deal with that. But I can't do that. And there are many other things that I cannot control. But if I've got a roof and if I've got a view of the sky, then there is something I can really do. Or at least I could participate in a community solar kind of program. There are things we can do. We're not helpless. And things look pretty bleak. And when I think about grandkids and the next generation, it looks kind of bleak. We've got to do something. We really have to do something. It's not the only thing we can do. There are other, there's wind, and probably there needs to be some nuclear in the mix of all that, and other things that need to be done. But we can do this, and that's why I really love the chance to do this and spread the word about this. That if you've got a view of the sky, you can take what God is giving us and use it to the advantage of the earth.
Thank you, Tom. Joe? You're mute.
I work over at the Archdiocese of Washington, and so I've had the pleasure over the last a number of years not only to have these things that I've done here at home, but also to be able to work and encourage folks to be able to support environmental causes. And it's one of those things where when I'm talking with folks, I'll sometimes get some folks that say, well, we don't need to worry about that now. We got to worry about getting people back to mass, or we got to worry about this. We got to worry. And I'm like, those are all good points, but they don't have to be either or. This is very much you can work on all of these fronts. And in fact, this one is pretty important. The stewardship of our common home, as the Pope reminds us, is something that is critically important, because if we take advantage of this, it really is abusing some of the gifts that God has given us here. And to be stewards for our children, our grandchildren, and further down the line there, that's pretty important. So again, get past political battles and partisanship that's unfortunately these kind of things get wrapped up in. It really comes down to, at the end of the day, like, do you want to be someone that just throws all caution to the wind and just to effectively be super selfish, or do you want to try to do your part to make it a great place to live for the next bunch of generations, and at least do your part? And it doesn't take an enormous lift. There are lots of little things that they're probably going to talk about today, and of course things like the panels or whatever that you can do, and it does make a difference. So beyond me kind of laughing about like my bill is so tiny now, it's more important than that. It's just one of those things where someone's like, well, how much is that bill? So those are the things that, like, when I think about this and why this is so important, that's where really what I come to. And I find that when I can get a chance for talking with folks reasonably and not pointing fingers or saying this is your fault or anything like that, and dialogue opens up, we find with dialogue, you'll find the defensiveness coming down, and you find that there's a whole lot more in common than I think we might think there is, once we strip away all those other layers of stuff that gets stuck in the middle.
Totally. Two things just to highlight. Individual action is a responsibility right now. We are to that point where it's not only about big industries, but individual action is required to be able to win this fight, right? And I love that, Tom, you highlighted that, and I think it's so important. So now I'm gonna pass the word to and introduce you all to Sukhpreet Mishra from Solar United Neighbors and Simon Simmer from Civic. Sukrit is the Solar Switch Partner Director for the DMV region at Solar United Neighbors. Sukrit will be speaking about how home solar works in general and more specifically about the Solar Switch Purchasing Group that is open to homeowners in Northern Virginia, DC, and Montgomery, Prince George, and Frederick counties. Simon is the solar program manager at Civic Works Energy Programs based in Baltimore. Simon will follow up briefly about the Civic Works Solar Co-op that is open to homeowners in Baltimore City and County and Howard and Arundel and Harford counties. You're welcome to share any questions that you have for them through the chat. We will try to answer them once the presentation is over. And if we don't get to all of the questions, we will try our best to answer through the chat as well. So with this, I'm going to give the word to Sukrit for his presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Laura. And give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, before I get started, can everyone see my screen okay? I'll just need a verbal yes because I can't see anyone else.
Yes.
Perfect. And I'll just give a quick introduction on myself and then get into this because it's quite a bit of content to get through, and I just want to respect the time for anyone who is following up after me and leave some space for Q&As as well. So let me just get started here. So yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Sukrit Mishra. I'm the DC Program Director at Solar United Neighbors and also coordinating this year's Solar Switch program, also known as the annual co-ops. And yeah, my aim in this presentation is to provide a breakdown of the Solar Switch program, how folks can sign up and go solar with us at a competitive rate. The second part will be more focused on solar tech, just the basics of solar panels, what they look like, how they go on your roof, and any other important parts. And the last part will be solar financing, your savings, any of the incentives in the region, and related stuff. And again, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. I would be happy to answer them at the end. And I will also drop my email in the chat, or if Maddie, if you have my email, you're welcome to drop it there as well. But if I can't get to it tonight, rest assured, I will respond to it via email, when I return to office tomorrow. And with that, I'll just get started with the presentation. So in a nutshell, Solar United Neighbors, also known as SUN, we are a 501c3 vendor neutral nonprofit. What that basically means is anytime folks have questions about recommendations on specific installers, battery backup providers, roofers, or anything else, our job is to educate folks, give them all the resources and background that they need, but we don't take any sides. We don't provide specific vendor recommendations. We maintain a neutral stance over there. Moving on, in terms of our national impact, since we started almost more than 15 years ago, we have helped more than 8,000 families go solar across the nation. That translates to almost 70 megawatts of rooftop solar that's been installed in that time frame. For folks who are, geeks or have a science background like me, that's a lot. And that translates to around 1 million tons of carbon dioxide that's been offset by going solar. And in terms of our inception story or the backstory, this was back in 2007. The person you see over here, that's Anya Schoolman. That's our executive director and company founder. Back in 2007, if you all recall, there was a documentary back then. It was called The Inconvenient Truth on Global Warming. This person on the right, that's Walter, her son, and his friend Diego. They watched it in school, got inspired, came back home and said, Mom, we got to do something and, make a difference. Anya researched options on solar in DC, and she realized how pricey and tedious the whole process was. And it was a bit of a pain working with Pepco if you had to go solar. And that's when she started our very first co-op, or bulk purchase model. She aggregated or gathered together 50 of her closest neighbors and friends across Mount Pleasant here in DC, and she ran that co-op. We ran a few more co-ops across DC in those first couple of years, and then we steadily expanded to Maryland, then Virginia, and as of 2024, we are active in 11 states, as well as DC and Puerto Rico. And yeah, if you look at the numbers now, in 2024, we started with one co-op, we're almost up to 400. Like I said, more than 8,000 families have gone solar. I looked at the numbers just before the presentation because we have a database that gets synced in real time. And of these families, almost, I believe 1,100 families are from Maryland. And yeah, Maryland makes up almost 15% of all of our installations across the country. Not surprising because it is a second oldest program. And our theory of change is basically, it's triple faceted. The first part is helping people go solar in the co-ops. But if people don't have the budget or they just want to go solar on their own, that's okay too. We have a help desk staff that provides pro bono consulting. It's basically 15-minute calls. I call it 15 minutes, but it always runs overtime. But this is done free of charge. We help people go solar. Number two, we help people join together. We provide them with resources on battery backups, SRECs, financing, maintenance providers, anything solar related. In fact, if you go to our website, we have a treasure trove on all these resources. We also run our own listservs where folks can always join and ask anything solar related. We do not get involved in those discussions. We try to moderate them as much as possible without folks spamming it. So you can also post questions there. And the last part is fighting for energy rights. Our biggest challenge, not just here in DC, but across the nation is we do have a fight against the utility. We always get pushback against residential solar. Progress is not a straight line. And anytime folks who are dealing with their HOAs or any other external body, whenever they have questions about solar or any challenges, we do our best to connect them with their local commissioners or anyone else in our network and try to expedite that process or resolve it as best as possible. So before I jump into this, like I said, 3 parts. The first part is the co-op, also known as Solar Switch. Second part will be solar tech. And it'll be really high level. I don't want to get into the details, just to keep it simple. And the last part is solar financing. And let's just get started with Solar Switch. Solar Switch is the new name or a rebrand of our traditional co-ops. It is basically a bulk purchase or group buying program for folks who are looking to install residential solar PV systems or solar systems on their roofs, or a battery backup or EV chargers. This program is open to homeowners, small businesses, and small nonprofits. If you think you're a good fit for this, there will be a sign-up link later on, and I will explain the criteria for this. In terms of the big benefits, the 2 major benefits are, solar is not an overnight process. If you're looking to go solar on your own and you have done your homework, it's a lot of research. There are a lot of vendors out there. And that's where we will save you time by vetting all these vendors, doing background checks, looking at their financials, ensuring that the installers that we select in the program are certified, they've worked within our co-ops, and they have a solid reputation. And we're trying to make sure that the products, the modules, the inverters, and anything else that they're offering in these programs are state-of-the-art, they're high quality, and they're going to provide you with stellar services across their lifetime. And this is a partnership between us at Solar United Neighbors, also known as SUN, and a company called iChooser. Now, iChooser is a company based out of Holland. They also have offices in the UK and Japan and Belgium, and now they're involved with us in the US. We did a couple of pilot programs with them in Texas and Colorado. The results were great. And this is their 3rd campaign with us here in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And just to echo what someone said earlier, this program is open to folks in DC, folks in Northern Virginia. By Northern Virginia, I mean Arlington and Fairfax County, and folks in Maryland, folks in Frederick, PG, and Montgomery County. I looked at the numbers just before this presentation. We have almost 1,800 members signed up for the program, and the deadline to join will be July 24th, but more on that later. And again, just to elaborate a bit more on the benefits, it is a voluntary buying group. What that means is if you do sign up and you go through the whole consultation and you don't feel comfortable, or you want to back out, or you just want to wait till next year, not a problem. Just let us know, drop us an email. We will remove you from the program, no questions asked, and you'll get your security deposit back. Like I said, not an obligation. This is totally optional. In terms of best value, folks in the program save an average of anywhere from 15 to 25% on going solar with us as compared to going solar on your own. Again, this depends on how many people are signed up and the modules that are being offered. Besides all these benefits are on the financial front, there's also regional impact. The more campaigns that we run and the more installers we bring into the fold, we expect to grow this even more and bring on even more signups in future campaigns, which means more discounted rates in future campaigns. And lastly, our focus is also on advocacy. As a nonprofit, we're always fighting for more solar-oriented policies. We cannot do that without showing without showing a solar portfolio or showing that we're helping people go solar on the residential level. So indirectly, we're also focusing on advocacy initiatives in these programs. So like I said before, by coming together, you're getting a lower price with a trusted or verified installer, anywhere from 15 to 25% savings. It's a hassle-free process. We're doing most of the work for you. We will connect you to the installer. We would be happy to review any bids or proposals you receive from the installer. Besides that, you will be prompted and you will be receiving regular emails from us, but we will not be spamming you. It's a very linear and straightforward process. And I'll provide more context on this later on. Again, the installers are vetted. Most of these installers have been working with us since 2016. We know their ability to meet the volume for these installations. We ensure that they cover or complete these installations within 3 to 4 months of you signing the contract. So we have already done all the technical assurance and the quality checks to ensure that everything's up to date and you're getting quality service. And the last thing is customer service. If you ever have any questions during the whole installation process or even beyond, let's say you run into any maintenance problems, we have a help desk staff that responds on average anywhere from 2 to 4 hours from us receiving the question. This is all done free of charge. So we have you covered throughout the whole process and even beyond the installation. So this is what it looks like on the website. It's made up of 4 steps. The first thing is registration. We will be sharing the registration link at the end of the presentation if it's not been dropped into the chat already. You will fill out a form. I will go over some parts of that form, and then you'll receive a personal recommendation based on the responses you provide. If you like a recommendation, we will ask for a $150 security deposit. This is 100% refundable. We ask for this deposit because we just want to filter out folks who are interested in going solar versus folks who might just get flaky or drop out. Like I said, we have almost 1,800 people signed up. We're expecting that number to hit 3,000 by the end of July. And yeah, we're trying to target the more receptive or responsive folks when it comes to solar. And then there's a decision day. From the day you receive the proposal, you will have 30 days to sign the contract. Assuming you go with that, the installation is the last part. And I'll get more into this in the next few slides. So once you click on the registration link, this is what the page looks like. It'll basically ask you for generic stuff around the pitch of your roof. I live near DuPont Circle. We have a flat roof here. You might have a steep roof or a pitched roof. And again, these are educated guesses. If you do not have an accurate or perfect answer, or you do not know the numbers, no worries at all. You can make an educated guess, and you can always change this when you have the consultation with the installer. We will also ask stuff around the material of your roof. Most roofs are a good fit for solar. Some of the exceptions include slate roofs. The reason some installers are a bit more hesitant or averse to working on slate roofs is slate roofs are fragile. They're in the event that they crack or what have you, there might be some liabilities for the installer. Sometimes they cannot bear the weight for the panels. But again, they're a small exception. On average, roofs like asphalt shingles or anything else like seam metal roofs, they're a good fit for solar. We'll also ask you questions around how many stories are there on your house? What's your average utility bill every month? What percent of your utility bill are you looking to offset? Again, you do not have to have a perfect answer, it's just an educated guess. Once you fill out this form, we'll also ask you for your contact information. We keep this for the installer so that they can get in touch with you for the consultation itself. We are not selling any of this data to any other third party. We keep this within the organization and with the installer who is assigned to you. So again, this is just for the consultation purposes. And it will be generic questions around your physical address, where you reside, because based on your zip code and wherever you live, you will be assigned an installer in this whole co-op or this process. And the last part is, assuming you pay that deposit and you receive your personal offer, this is what it looks like. This is just one page of it. Again, it'll be made up of the modules or the panels that will be on your roof, the warranties that the installer will be covering, and related stuff. It could be with the monitoring system, the microinverters, your average savings, and anything related to that. And again, this is just a step where we ask that you're interested. If you decide to go forward, this is where you'll pay the $150 deposit. You'll be assigned to an installer, and you can ask them to customize some of the stuff specifically, and they'll be happy to do that. And like I said, that's where the decision or deposit process comes in. It's 100% refundable. Assuming you pay this deposit, you will go forward, you'll be assigned to an installer. That's where the personal consultation will take place. And there are 3 installers selected for this program. For folks tuning in from DC, we selected Solar Solution. We've been working with Solar Solution since 2016. They're one of the biggest installers in DC. They've always done a stellar work in our co-ops and our campaigns, and yeah, they've been selected again. The other 2 installers are Lumina Solar and SCW, as in Solar Energy World. Depending on the zip code you reside in, you'll be assigned to either Lumina or SCW in Virginia and Maryland. And again, if you want to switch installers, we're happy to do that and assign you another installer in the program itself. So we're pretty flexible on that. And yeah, I think that covers most of Solar Switch. I will have a timeline for Solar Switch at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, just hold on till then. Moving on, I'll just give you a basic background on solar tech. And I'm forgetting their name, but I think it was Tom who said early on, you do not have to know all the technical specifics on how everything works. That's my job. I have a chemical engineering background. This is something we'll be doing when we work with the installer. You do not have to be an expert on this. So if you're not familiar with some of these words, no worries. We have you covered over there. My aim is to just give you a brief breakdown on what these panels look like. In a nutshell, the panels, also known as photovoltaic cells or modules, are converting solar energy from the sun into a usable form of electricity for your household. This is an example of a ground-mounted system. These are not as prevalent in the residential sector as compared to rooftop solar. So I'll just hop onto that right now. This is what these panels look like. Again, they're made up of many particular parts, very durable. They can withstand high wind speeds, a lot of storms. So these are very strong. On average, these panels or these solar arrays last anywhere from 25 to 30 years. In fact, for those first 25 to 30 years, they will be producing up to 80% of their peak energy by the end of their lifetime. And the biggest benefit is once it's installed, it'll just be sitting on your roof and doing the bulk of your production. It'll be doing its job. You do not have to do any maintenance. And yeah, it just makes your life really easy for the next 25 years. In terms of a racking system, the reason we took this picture, this was in DC in one of our previous installations. The panels don't go directly on your rooftop. There's usually a medium or a racking system that it goes on, and that racking system is installed on your roof. Some racking systems might require some penetration. Your warranties and all that other stuff covers those penetrations. If you do not prefer that, they can also be clipped on your roof, depending on your preferences. But again, we have the material and the equipment and the technology for this. This can, this can withstand all the forces, anything that nature has to throw at this for 25 years. And yeah, racking systems are factored into the cost for your system. In terms of what's a good roof for solar, again, this is just a general criteria, but the first thing is roof orientation. Without getting too much into astronomy, we live in the northern hemisphere. The earth is tilted into the sun. Installers usually look for south-facing roofs. That's the best facing roof when it comes to solar. East and west-facing roofs are a close second. They're also a good fit for solar. The only exception would be north-facing roofs. They may be receiving some sunlight in those peak sun hours during the summer, but it doesn't make for a good financial investment if you just have north-facing roofs. The second criteria or second factor is shading. In terms of a magic number, installers usually look for at least 200 square feet of open roof space when it comes to solar. Having said that, I live in DC, roofs are more smaller, more economical. If you're hovering around that or you're just short of that number, installers can make an exception. They'll just factor it into your budget. You might have a slightly higher payback time, but it can still be done. And again, if you're not sure if your roof's a good fit for solar, that's something we do. When you fill out that form in this program and you provide your physical address, the installer will do their own assessment. They'll do an energy efficiency check on your roof and let you know if it's a good fit for solar. And this is done free of cost. The third factor, like I said, 200 square feet of open roof space. But again, there are exceptions. So if you're at the border, apply nonetheless. And the last part is a new or undamaged roof. If you know that your roof needs replacing in the next 5 or 10 years, we highly recommend getting that done before the solar installation. We don't want you installing the system, realizing that your roof was incredibly old, it needed replacing, because what happens then is the installer has to come by, deinstall the system, fix the roof, reinstall it again, and this is not free of cost. There is an added cost. So if you know your roof needs replacing in the near future, we can connect you to roofers who can get this done. You can also speak to the installer who can run a check and let you know if the roof is durable enough for the panels for the next 25 to 30 years. Now, there are exceptions. If you do not meet that criteria, the alternative is pursuing ground-mounted solar systems. One of the big benefits of ground-mounted systems is they're very flexible. Assuming you have enough space in your backyard or somewhere on your property, they can be angled to optimize the amount of sunlight they'll be receiving during those peak sun hours. The other thing is, they're more spacious. They can optimize more space, and they will be producing more energy as compared to rooftop solar. On the flip side, when it comes to ground-mounted systems, they are pricier because there's a lot of trenching and wiring involved. So that's another consideration if you are pursuing a ground-mounted project. The alternative is also community solar. These are off-site projects in Maryland and DC where you can basically rent or subscribe to one of these projects. Their subscription fees are nominal. You do not own the system. You're basically subscribing or renting it, but you're still benefiting from from solar energy. It's still offsetting some portion of your electricity bill. It's cheaper than purchasing solar, but you do not own the system. So that's a big consideration there. And again, we have some resources on this. If you have any questions on community solar, we have a database on our website. I'd be happy to share it with you if you reach out to us on the email provided in the chat, and I'll also drop it later on. And some important terms when it comes to solar. The two big terms are kilowatts and kilowatt hours. Kilowatts is what the system size is for your system. What you see over here, this is a solar array. A solar array is made up of more than one solar panel. That's what it usually looks like on anyone's rooftop. If you've ever gone for a walk around the neighborhood, you'll usually see a solar array instead of just one panel. This is a fixed system size. Now, kilowatt hours, also known as kWh, this is your electricity production, and this varies. Depending on the time of the year or month, your system might produce more in the summer, less so in the fall or winter, so that will vary. I get this question all the time from folks where they have a similar system size as their neighbor, and they write to us and they say, hey, they're saving more on their utility bill as compared to us. And we have the same number of panels or same size. Do you know what's going on? And it's usually the amount of tree cover they have around the property, the slope of the roof, the layout of the panels themselves. So again, you can have the same system size, it's fixed. What varies is its production across the year. And this is what it looks like all in all. Again, you do not have to know this. This is just a basic layout, just so that you know what's going on. The first part is the sun. The panels are receiving that sunlight, and what they're doing is absorbing it in the form of DC or direct current, and then it goes through your inverter over here in part 2, where direct current or DC is converted into AC or alternating current, because that's how your appliances, or that's how anything in your house uses that electricity. It then goes through the electric panel and then back to the grid. And that's important because Maryland is one of the few states where if your system produces surplus or excess production, it does not go to waste. It actually goes back to the grid, and that's where net metering comes in. That's basically a reward for any excess production that your system's producing. It goes back to the grid, and in those winter or fall months, or even after sunset, when you're taking the electricity back from the grid, you're not paying for that. Any of the excess production is offsetting that consumption. So basically, you're also reducing your electricity bills, even when your panels are not producing as much electricity in those winter months. As an example, this is what it looks like on your electricity bill. Let's say you produce or you consume 300 kilowatts or units from the utility. I'm going to use Pepco as an example here. That's my local utility. However, your panels during those summer months produce an excess or a surplus of 250 units, which was sent back to the grid. That's going to be deducted from your consumption. Instead of you paying for those 300 units, you're just paying for 50 units. So this is just, a benefit in addition to the fact that you're getting SRECs and any of the other benefits from solar. Again, this is a complicated topic, so if you have questions, we do have resources. We can share it after the presentation. I do realize we're running out of time, so I'm going to speed through this real quick. The next thing is, in terms of solar economics, what we're trying to show you here is solar costs have come down significantly over the past decade, in fact, almost 70%. And another big benefit is when the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, was passed, it meant that if you had a large enough federal tax liability, you could apply 30% of your installation costs and take it on your federal taxes. And this is capped at 30% for the next decade. So this is not a discount, but this is more like an offset on your solar costs. So if you have a large enough federal tax burden, this is where it can be applied. And this is how we run these campaigns. The reason we can offer these discounts is almost 50 to 60% of costs for installers when it comes to solar is soft costs. So anything around permits, marketing, doing outreach, door-to-door advertising, that's what we are saving them on. We're basically signing people up for them and assigning them these leads. And that's how they're able to provide these competitive discounted rates during these campaigns or co-ops. And like I said, the ITCs, or federal tax credits, they're capped at 30% until 2032. This is something you can take out on your installation as long as you have a large enough federal tax liability. This is what it looks like in terms of numbers. I'll use an example of a 4 kilowatt system. The average pricing in Maryland in our co-ops or previous campaigns has been around $2.75 a watt. Let's use 4 kilowatts or 4,000 watts. That's what it comes out to, $11,000. If you have a large enough tax liability, 30% of 11,000 is 3,300. You can deduct it from that. There's also a clean energy grant at $1,000. Now, this fund gets exhausted at some time in the year, so it might not be evergreen, but that's another consideration. And SRECs. I cannot get into that right now, but that's another production incentive. For every 1,000 kilowatt hours that your system produces, you get a credit in the open market. That's how much it's trading at right now. So if you deduct all of this from the cost, you're paying an upfront net cost of around $6,000. And then for the next 25 years, instead of paying the utility those usual electricity bills, your solar system is offsetting those bills. And this is how much you're actually saving over 25 years over its lifetime. And you're actually making a profit on that system over 25 years. There's usually a payback of 9 to 10 years in Maryland. So once you have paid off that system for the next 15 years, you're making a profit. And again, these are just sample numbers based on the average sizes and data we have seen in our co-ops. You might have a bigger system or a smaller system. It just depends. The last part is, this is where you can join SolarSwitch. I know we will be breaking later on to sign up for this, so I can move on from this slide if that's okay, and we can get back to this later on.
Yeah.
And the last slide over here is, this is what the timeline looks like. The program went live on April 1st. This is the sign up link. We are accepting applications until July 24th. We selected 3 installers on May 8th, earlier this month, and I told you the 3 installer names. And what's happening right now is, on a rolling basis, on a first come, first served basis, people are receiving those individual personal proposals or recommendations. If you decide to commit to it, the deadline to accept it is August 24th. And we are aiming to complete all the installations by the end of January next year. And that's it from me. If you have any questions, that's my email, mdteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. I also have a personal email, smishra@solarunitedneighbors.org. I don't expect you to know that email, so I will drop it in the chat. And with that, I'll give the time and space on to the next speaker.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Sukrit,
course.
for that great presentation. We'll go straight to Simon for his presentation. Then we follow Simon's presentation. We'll take a few minutes to sign up for the solar co-ops together, and then we'll leave the questions for the end. I'm pretty sure we are already answering questions via chat, so that's good. But please know that we will be answering questions once Simon has done his presentation. So go ahead, Simon.
Great, thank you. And I'm assuming you can see my PowerPoint presentation. Go Solar.
We can't see your slides. No, I think we can see
No.
your notes.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay.
No worries.
There we go.
Yep, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll make this real quick. Got 5 minutes. So hello, everybody. My name is Simone Zimmer. I'm the solar program manager at Civic Works. At Civic Works, we also offer solar co-op where people have the opportunity to go solar. Before we talk about solar, I wanted to provide a quick introduction about Civic Works. We're a 501c3 public charity based in Baltimore, Maryland. We were founded in 1993, and our mission is to strengthen Baltimore's communities through education, skills development, and community service. And the energy programs at Civic Works contributes to our mission of strengthening communities by making it easy and affordable for residents to lower their energy bills and make their homes healthier through sustainable energy solutions, such as energy audits, weatherization, rooftop solar installation, and electrification improvements. So what is a solar co-op? A solar co-op is where Civic Works has pre-negotiated the terms of a rooftop solar package deal with local solar contractors. Everything has been negotiated regarding pricing, exceptional equipment, warranties, including a 20-year workmanship warranty, and monitoring service, all done with high quality. By signing up with the solar co-op through Civic Works, we've made the process of getting solar not only cheaper, but also faster so that you can enjoy the savings of solar and generate clean energy, which is great for the environment. So how does the solar co-op work? First, you meet the energy advisor from Civic Works. Your energy advisor guides you through the process and makes sure going solar is right for you. Second, you meet the solar contractor. Your energy advisor introduces you to the solar contractor. Third, you assess the roof. The solar contractor assesses the roof to verify any shading from trees or other structures, the size and shape of your roof, and its orientation towards or away from the path of the sun. Step 4 is review and sign sales proposal. If your home is a good fit for solar, The solar contractor provides and reviews the sales proposal with you. Once you're ready to go solar, you sign the proposal, which turns into the contract between you and the solar contractor. Step five is begin permitting process. The solar contractor begins applying for the permits and utility interconnection for the solar system. You don't have to do anything except maybe sign a few papers. Step 6 is install solar. Once the permits and the interconnection are approved, the solar contractor installs the solar system. This generally takes just a few days. Step 7, almost there. The solar contractor commissions and tests the system and then applies for the permission to operate from the utility company. And then finally, turn on solar. The solar system is turned on and you begin saving money and producing clean energy. Note that anytime during this process, you can always contact your energy advisor from Civic Works if you have any questions. Also remember, joining the solar co-op is free, as well as getting a solar proposal to see how much it would cost to go solar. So you do invest a little bit of time, but then you'll get to know if it makes sense to go solar or not. And here we have the link to sign up for the solar co-op through Civic Works. I'll put that in the chat as well. And then also note, we will also have a solar info session on June 25th of this year. Please visit our energy programs website to sign up for the session, where we'll go into much more detail than these 5 minutes. Really appreciate your time tonight. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And you can also write me. My contact information is there. Our outreach and intake team contact information is there too. They'd be happy to answer any questions about solar or other services that we provide. Did I finish that in time? I think so.
Thank you so much to both of our presenters. I am Joelle Novi with Interfaith Power and Light, and it's been so wonderful to be with you, and I appreciate all of the folks who have shared so far tonight. So in a moment, we are going to pause to take action by getting connected to the solar purchasing group appropriate to your location. So as I said in the chat, the 2 organizations we just heard from are running similar programs with some slight differences, and those programs serve different areas of our region. So which one you're going to be is going to be open to you has to do with where you live. And then we'll reconvene for remaining questions, but we really want to make sure to stop with plenty of time to take action. Actually, I'm realizing we are quite ahead of time. Do we want to take a few questions live now, if anyone has any? I was so excited to move forward, but I'm actually realizing we made great time.
Joel, if it's okay, I do see a question from someone who I think they're based in Kentucky and they're looking to go solar. If that question is for me, so our team is not based, we do not have any field staff in Kentucky. However, I think Energy Sage would be a great resource in terms of finding reliable vendors in your neighborhood or wherever you reside. Those installers have tons of public reviews, and there's a lot of details and I would say neutral assessments from other folks who have gone solar with them. And we always share that resource with anyone outside our states.
Yes,
I
the
know,
federal tax credit for solar, I was going to answer another question I see here in the chat. The federal tax credit for solar is 30% for everyone. And that went up to 30% immediately upon the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. So clean energy in America is on sale.
And I did get a direct message from Jack, I think, about Solar Switch. Feel free to follow up after this. Happy to answer any questions.
I was gonna say, Marilyn sent me a good question. Marilyn, are you still here? Do you want to ask Sukrit your question?
Sure, I can. Thanks. Sorry. So I'm actually zooming in from California, but my husband and I have a rental property in Alexandria. And when I first got this invitation, I was excited because it'd be great if we could install rooftop solar there. But I just was really sensitive to not, so to speak, ending up on a mailing list where the tenants will end up with either, phone calls or I'm sure you don't call on the phone, but mail or anything. So is there a way that when I go through the process, I can say, okay, here's the address I'm interested in, but here's my contact information, or should I just send a separate email?
No, that's a good question. If it's your rental property, when you fill out that sign-up form, we're going to ask you specifically for your email, the
Okay.
email you prefer to be contacted on, as well as phone number,
Yeah.
and just your preference. Some folks do not like getting called. They prefer interacting via email. That's fine too. But
Okay.
it's going to be between you and the installer and not anyone living over, whoever the tenant is.
Okay.
Second thing is, we always do our best to ensure you're not spammed with anything irrelevant besides the installer and all that. We
Sure.
do send you some educational materials around the basics of solar, but nothing else.
Okay.
So,
So
you know,
that'll go to the mailing address, the contact.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
Correct.
Sorry to be so sensitive about that.
no worries. Yeah, of course.
And
Oh, that's great and a great question. I'm gonna, the question about how do we celebrate solar panels on a church that is out of view of the street, there's lots of great answers, but one I've seen is just you can have a live link to the screen that tracks the production, in the lobby. So everyone can see that it's making energy right then. But we're happy at Interfaith Power and Light. We really specialize in supporting congregations and celebrating and publicizing their solar panels, which some of them call our newest stained glass windows. So please be in touch about how we can support that. I wanted to field this next question, and then I am going to move on to what I tried to rush ahead to before, which is our taking action and signing up, and then we can come back and continue to ask questions. So somebody asked about their HOA, their homeowners association rules, which put restrictions on solar panels that are visible. And can they enforce these? My understanding is that Maryland now has a law in the books that says they cannot put any unreasonable how homeowners associations cannot put any unreasonable restrictions on solar. And then, sometimes it's a fight or a clarification, what is unreasonable. But in general, I think I would support, I think we should challenge these, go ahead and test it. Let's do it, because the climate crisis is urgent. I think solar panels are beautiful once you understand what they're doing. There was a church in Massachusetts that the local town ordinance said they couldn't put up solar panels, and they sued that it violated their freedom of religion because they want, so I really think, to the extent that there are some of these restrictions on the books that don't make a whole lot of sense, like let's just use our own example to call the question.
Joe, may I jump in that? I have like a direct experience with HOAs, and it's great how installers will support you with your HOA. Basically, you just give the installer the email and the company doing your HOA services, and they'll be mediators within the approval process. So you will not be alone dealing with your HOA. Installers will help.
Great.
That's awesome. So now I'm back to the thing, to what I wanted to invite us all to do before. I'm glad we got a few questions in there, which is that we're going to pause and take action by getting connected to the solar purchasing group appropriate to your location before reconvening for additional questions. This year's Sun Purchasing Group, the Capital Area Solar Switch, is open until the 3rd week of July, as you heard. And the Civic Works Solar Program, the second one we heard about, is available year-round. I want to invite everyone on the line tonight, everyone, I'm speaking to you, who owns a home in our region that isn't yet powered by sunshine, to get connected with the purchasing group, even if you're not sure if you want to do it or you still have questions. Just take a minute and get connected to us tonight. The very first step is that the good folks at Sun or Civic Works, respectively, will evaluate your home's roof using Google Earth, and they'll let you know if you have a promising site for solar. Also, as both speakers said, this is not committing you to anything. Ultimately, you will make your own decisions about whether to proceed with solar through the purchasing group's offerings. It's committing you to getting a proposal, not to doing anything in particular. I also want to mention in passing that in DC proper, there is a special program that can help out low and moderate income homeowners. So please do not assume you can't afford to participate. Just start the process and we will see what's possible together. So Maddie has just put in the chat 4 links. I want you to click on at least one of them. So there are 2 programs for going solar at home, and you can see where, based on where you live, which one you should click on. Either SUN, the Solar Switch, Solar United Neighbors program in either Northern Virginia, DC, Montgomery, Prince George's, or Frederick counties. And then the Civic Works program the second presentation, if you live in Baltimore City or County, Anne Arundel, Howard, or Harford counties. That is the program that serves you. There are 2 more items in the chat, and I want to explain both of them too. Even if you can't put solar panels on your own home, for example, if you are a renter, anyone who pays an energy bill to BGE, Pepco Maryland, Pepco DC, or Penobing Edison, in other words, most of our DC and Maryland folks today, can subscribe to a Neighborhood Sun community solar project nearby and support solar energy through your energy bills. That's an on-paper transaction. It's not about physical panels. So it's a great way to support solar energy if the 2 co-ops are not available to you. And we didn't talk at all tonight directly, although it was a beautiful slideshow that included some examples of parish and school building solar projects. But across our region, we know that many Catholic parishes and schools are pursuing or exploring solar electricity systems in fulfillment of Laudato Si's call to replace fossil fuels without delay, as Paz reminded us. There is, for example, an aggregate solar energy project serving the Archdiocese of Baltimore and numerous solar powered parishes and schools in the Diocese of Arlington and the Archdiocese of Washington. If you are interested in talking about that for your community, please contact us using the invitation in the chat to let us know how we can help. Okay. Please take a moment to look in the chat for the appropriate link and double click the link that's right for you, and we will play some music to give us some space to all fill out and sign up and take action together.
I'm loving the music. Thank you. Is it over or not? Thank you. Well, we want to thank everyone that joined us tonight. Thank you for being curious. The music doesn't want to stop. I guess I said I like the music. Now, thank you. That was great music. Thank you so much, everyone, joining us tonight. Thank you for being curious. Thank you for being here, wanting to learn, wanting to understand how to take action, tangible action as a team and with support of knowledgeable people here. Thank you so much to our presenters. They were great, very clear presentations. I think they were just on point to what we needed to tackle during this session. So thank you. We will leave the Zoom open so we can ask more questions. And right now, please go ahead and ask as many questions as you want to Sucrit and Simon. We wanted to leave the last few minutes for that. So if there's more questions, please go ahead, open your mic, raise your hand, write it on the chat. They'll be happy to answer. We'll be happy to answer any other questions that you might be having right now.
I'm happy to hang in the background, and if it helps set the mood, we can also bring on the music again, but I'm happy to hang around here.
Thank
I was
you,
going to
Sigrid.
mention to folks, I'm Maddie. I work at IPL-DMV with Joelle. I also put links into the chat to bulletin inserts that invite people to sign up for these co-ops, and there's one for the Solar Switch and one for Civic Works. And I'll put the links in the chat again. And we'll send these out to you in a follow-up email so everyone can see. But these are just bulletin inserts that you can share in your parishes that invite people to sign up as well. And I also put some links to connect with the organizations that co-sponsored today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Maddie. Thanks, everyone.
Any other questions? If not, I was going to close with yet another Canticle of the Creatures musical offering. And then as we hear the music, we can sign off. This was lovely. Thank you so much.
A tu paso alegras el cielo y nos traes luz y calor por tu sol de alegre vuelo, loado mi Señor. Te deslizas por las praderas y en los prados pintas verdor por tus luces mañaneras, loado mi Señor. malos y buenos, para todos es tu calor. ¿Quieres tú que nos amemos? Loado mi Señor. Con tus manos todos los días, pobre y rico cubren dolor. Aprendamos tu alegría, loado mi Señor. Hermanos son, tú nos traes alegría, y del Señor el amor. Por tu bello día, loado mi Señor. Tú maduras frutos y mieses, y a las flores das el color. Con el paso de los meses, loado mi Señor. Recorriendo la hermana tierra, a los hombres ves sin amor. Por los que no quieren guerra, loado mi Señor. Hermanos son, tú nos traes alegría, y del Señor el amor. Por tu bello día, loado mi Señor. Hermanos son, tú nos traes alegría, y del Señor el amor. Por tu bello día, loado mi Señor.
Does anyone else want to?
Thank you, everyone. Take good care. I'm going to go ahead and close the Zoom, but please feel free to follow up by email with questions, and we'll send out a follow-up email to everyone. Thank you. Have a good night.